Oh, hey, buddy, it's your old pal Scott, and this is Let's Talk Tabletop. Of course, the elephant in the room when you think of miniature gaming is Games Workshop. It's what everyone thinks of. But what if I told you there was a little brother to Games Workshop that seemingly does everything right? That would be Mantic Games. Let's dive into it. Now, I've never been a huge Mantic Games fan. I was always a Games Workshop fan, and I dabbled a little in Mantic miniatures. I kickstarted their Dead Zone game more than a decade ago, etc., and I often found their miniatures to be decent and very well priced, but their plastic was lacking. It wasn't the high quality plastic the Games Workshop uses. Well, I just recently, for Mass Brutality, not actually for one of the Mantic games, but for Mass Brutality, I bought a starter set of Firefight, which is a Warhammer-esque. It's not quite it's not quite Kill Team, and it's not quite 40K. It's somewhere in between, and it's sci-fi, etc. A starter box is like $140, and it has two decent-sized armies in it. And it comes with a rulebook and all of that. And I'm thinking to myself, this plastic is actually really nice. You know, my preconceived notions of Mantic's plastic was that it was never that great, because when I got the Kickstarter a decade or more ago, it was kind of okay. I forget what you call it, polystyrene plastic or whatever, where it's just kind of soft, and I didn't care for it. But this is hard plastic. This is actually decent hard plastic now. And so one of my major complaints about Mantic games from the past is now seemingly gone. Now, they still do have some 3D printed miniatures. They do have some metal miniatures. And I'm sure some of their older kits may still be that older plastic. But this newer plastic is fantastic. So there's no reason on those grounds for anybody to not be buying these. The next thing I wanted to mention, and there's a lot here, so stay tuned. The next thing I want to mention is that they have a ton of games on offer. A lot of them are their original IP, but they are also a lot of licensed stuff too. Starting with the licensed stuff, they have a brand new Halo Flashpoint tactical miniature board game-esque sort of thing, but it's miniatures. They've got The Walking Dead, All Out War, and they've got Hellboy is another one. They have all of these licensed games, and they seem pretty darn popular. But they also have sci-fi and fantasy versions of their own Mantic games. Like Kings of War is kind of the flagship, kind of rank and flank sort of old world version of their games, and it's fantasy. Then you've got smaller things. They even have a fast play version, which is pretty neat. It's like a merge between miniatures and a board game. And I want to say from the beginning that I've never been a huge Mantic fan. This is not promoted. This is literally nothing. It's just I was shocked when I checked in on them, and I was like, wow, they've got actually a lot going on, and there's way more than you probably realize. They also have Dead Zone and Firefight and a bunch of other things that are their 40K versions, essentially. They're sci-fi versions of their games. They also have epic scale miniatures, and they also have naval fleet, fantasy naval fleet, such as Dreadfleet. They have those games as well. So they've got a lot on offer if you go take a look at their web store. One thing that they do that Games Workshop is not willing to do is they actually have a Patreon-esque STL monthly subscriber thing where they actually sell you the STLs to their miniatures. You can actually go on their website and buy the STLs to their miniatures, which is really awesome. People have been saying Games Workshop should do that forever, and Mantic has already done it. Now, not all of their miniatures. Every month they release new miniatures in STL format, so they're slowly growing their catalog. But it's quite a huge list of miniatures that are currently for download for the STLs. Another thing is that Games Workshop has an app builder. Well, so does Mantic. Mantic has app builders for their games as well. So that's another way that they are either equal or better than Games Workshop. Another thing is old Warhammer players, even before my time, will remember the old Games Workshop. I think it was called Skulls. And essentially, it was a rewards program where you could get free stuff for buying Games Workshop product, and you cut out the little squares with skulls on them. And when you save up enough skulls, you could get stuff for free. Well, Mantic has that exact thing to this day. It's called Mantic points, and they're on most of their packaging. The bigger the box that you buy, the more points you get, and there are exclusive miniatures you can only get through points, which is pretty cool. I was looking on their website, and I was like, man, you got to pay shipping, but that's pretty awesome. Another really cool thing about Mantic is that they encourage proxies and they allow proxies, and they really don't care if you buy their miniatures, which is a pretty cool thing compared to Games Workshop. You know, where if you have non-Games Workshop helmets on one of your guard units, you can't play it in the GW tournament, that sort of thing. Well, Mantic does not seem to be that way, and a lot of their community is based around kit bashing and making things their own. So that's also pretty cool. So why is Mantic so cool compared to Games Workshop? And I'm just discovering this now. I think it's because they're not publicly traded. Games Workshop always needs to make number go up, so they increase the prices and they are more and more predatory to their customers. But Mantic really seems to be pro gamer and pro community, and I have been super impressed the more I look into Mantic. And maybe the biggest deal out of all these points I've brought up is that Mantic's prices are like 30 to 50% off what Games Workshop's are. If you want to look at 10 intercessors or 10 enforcers, they're about half price. If you want to look at 5 terminators or 5 peacekeepers, they're about half off. The prices are incredibly good for Mantic's miniatures, and like I said, now they're, at least the new kits are exactly on par with Games Workshop in my opinion, and they're really nice. Would you like to save 30 to 50% on your miniatures if you're using a miniature agnostic game such as one of the Brutality games or just proxying for Warhammer? Of course we all would. Well, that's where Mantic comes in. Again, they have not contacted me at all. I was just blown away by the seeming... They're like Games Workshop back in the 80s is how they feel. They feel as far as they seem to be much friendlier to customers and they are less greedy, etc. It just seems like a really great company. I don't have time to play any other games, so I don't foresee myself playing any of the Mantic games in my personal time, but I'm certainly beginning to buy boxes of their miniatures for Mass Brutality or Brutality Skirmish or whatever, because the miniatures are really good and they are at a serious discount. So, and you know, there's online sellers that discount it even further. So I got my starter set of Firefight for $114 free shipping. Like, you can't beat that now that GW comes out with $300 starter sets for $30K or whatever. So anyway, check out Mantic. They absolutely need to be checked in on because they seem to be rocking it and they just quietly do their own thing. So I will see you later. Thank you to all my beautiful, sexy, good-smelling Patreon patrons listed right here, and I'd like to take this moment to just say a little something about each one of them. Mike Cowley is allergic to water, which is super unfortunate. He has to bathe in milk. Grendel has never seen a Star Wars movie. Thief Supreme sleeps in a walk-in freezer. Jordan eats hair, but just as a treat. Paint and Suffering has a cousin who is actually an adopted monkey named Bobo. Fraud Fishy does not like the color pink. Saul only listens to Klingon opera. Nate has only eaten Hawaiian dinner rolls for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 13 years. The Pepper's grandfather was actually Sergeant Pepper. Davich doesn't know where he is most days. Brendan refuses to wear a shirt. And Mitch will freak out if you pop bubble wrap around him. I'll see you guys next week.